All right, welcome back, my friends. We have a lot to cover today. This is going to be pretty intense. You all asked for this video, so the topic here is going to be advanced world generation, and that is kind of a good gateway to general modding of Dwarf Fortress. How you can change anything in Dwarf Fortress. You can change what types of fantasy characters are even playable. You can unlock so much in this procedural engine if you just ask it nicely, basically. I thought this was highly requested. I put up a poll, which is too late to vote on now, and I said, okay, I'm going to take that challenge. I'm going to remind myself, refresh my memory on how to really get into the guts of Dwarf Fortress. And so what we're going to do, lesson 1, we're going to start simple. We're going to do an advanced world generation. Okay, so what are we looking at here? This is where, so from the main screen, you see at the bottom there, it says basic options, and we clicked that to get in here. It said advanced options earlier. So you click in here, it's, in the world generation screen, and you'll see all these different kinds of kind of code tags for like maximum rainfall, minimum rainfall, rainfall X variance, rainfall Y variance, minimum temperature, maximum temperature. And this footage here, I'm just playing with it. And this is what I would honestly recommend. The main way you get good at Dwarf Fortress is to ignore the counterintuitive UIs, and then from there, figure out how things work. And so what you're looking at here is like, imagine like you're a DJ or something, and you have a million little sliders, and you can play with the knobs randomly and just get something interesting. So go for it. If you really know what you're doing, then you can actually be a proper DJ and get the levels right, get the bass right, get the drainage Y variance right, get the minimum volcanism. So I'll show you coming up, we're gonna actually play a map where I was just playing with the sliders in this analogy, just turning things on and off, and whatever was standard, I would switch it. Another thing I did, so like what I realized is at the top there, you're seeing parameters and save and load. And I was confused by that UI. But what you want to see at the top left is that little arrow. That's all of your save files basically for these advanced world gem settings. So just play with something, and it's tough to use this UI at first, but once you get a sense of how you're saving and loading files, you're using that little thing in the top left-hand corner to do everything, and then you can load and save from what is set on the left-hand side. And I hope that helps somebody, because that was the main thing I was struggling with. Is I was like, the load and save wasn't making sense to me, but that's how it works. So, but yeah, just play with these settings. We're going to look at the Wikia a little bit for some interesting things. The world I end up making in here is, I turned werewolves way up. I tried to turn werewolves way up. So I already learned something from this. So there's a setting that's specifically about how many types of werebeast. And I think it starts at like 26. So there'll be like were-chameleons, werewolves, were something else, where, crabmen, any other creature can be a were creature, and then it just means that it has like an infectious, occasionally occurring outburst of being berserk and being a hybrid with that character. And there's so many, different fantasy characters. I don't know, can there be like a were-elf? We're going to find out, because in this, so what the video should have just switched to, and again, I'm trying to get these timestamps right, is I made a map that doesn't work. So in Advanced World Gem, if you tell it something that doesn't work, I'm not sure exactly what I did wrong here, but it's trying to generate the rivers, and it's finding that the physics rules that I set don't allow for any rivers to be made. So right there, I switched over, I'm trying again. So yeah, that your world will be rejected or will just run forever and not be able to figure itself out if you tell it things that are impossible. So that's a little bit of the fun. You're going to learn what the game engine can take. And I have to recommend, go to the Wikia. I'm going to leave that source here. Use the Wikia and just experiment on your own. That's the only way to get a sense of it. This video is really just to give you a concept of what you could do. So at this point, I tried again, and I'm using a random, new parameter set. That's what I want to talk about. So that button on the top right-hand corner says new parameter set. That will give you a dice roll on everything, will set everything to something cool. And so the map we're going to see is actually from this new parameter set. I just said, give me something random, give me something spicy. It's imagine you go into an old restaurant that you love and they love you, and you tell them, just give me something different this time. And so I would definitely recommend that if you're getting tired. So two really cool things that immediately I got from this just new parameter set was the entire continent was dotted with volcanoes, so a lot more cool volcano options. A lot of times I think the normal Dwarf Fortress settings are just one volcano on the whole map, or maybe two if it's large, but you're going to see my map is very, very weird, actually. So it's like a volcano that's right at surface level on a plain, so it's just it's a magma caldera, and I had to like carve out the ground around it even to get magma forges up. And then it's also like a permafrost river that's half dead. Like half the river doesn't generate water, it seems like, even though the tiles are still set as riverbed. So already some funny, wonky, interesting stuff happening. But so the main part, as promised, okay, right here, I hope it's synced up. Number of Werebeast curse types. I did 1,000 instead of 26. So I said, I want Werebeastism. And yeah, I just named it Werebeast Panic. So I want a world where there's so many types of Werebeastism. And I'm going to go for it. One mistake I made, so underneath that, where it has the different types of how to be a werewolf, it also has certain triggers, and I set them to the maximum because I thought that would make them more frequent, but I believe now that I've studied the Wikia more, that it makes them occur later in the game because it's connected to like wealth or how big your fortress is or how much you've traded. So I think that this world is such that the whole world is full of werebeasts, but they're going to leave my fortress alone for longer than I wanted. I accidentally set it backwards. I wanted them to immediately show up. But it seems like now... But that's good, because now I'm going to have to build... I'll quickly build a big fortress, and the werewolves should start pouring in. And I'm going to report back on that as more of the modding. So how it ties into the modding is, when you look at that Advanced World Gen menu... That's giving you a cheat sheet of a lot of the parameters that make procedural fortress, that make the procedural engine of Dwarf Fortress really work. And once you have a sense of those parameters, here's the big secret. The mods in Dwarf Fortress are basically just text files that you could write yourself that have knowledge of how these parameters work, and then you just load it into the main game's engine. And I have to check my memory on how that works on the Steam version exactly. But if you can write a script or even take somebody else's script, the community gives these out on the Bay 12 forums and things like that. If you can get a script, modify a script, figure out how to script yourself, and then plug that in, you can make this engine do whatever you want. You don't have to play as dwarves. You could play as humans. You could play as fishmen. You could play as zombies and ghosts and all kinds of crazy things. The sky is really the limit, because the way this game works is every little thing has a token, has a little text token that marks every little detail about it. And if you can get in there and start to rewrite tokens, you can do whatever you want. Okay, and now we get to everybody's favorite part, which is where I read from the Wikia and other sources that are more knowledgeable than me. So let's just start, and these sources will be right down in the description there. Let's just start reading advanced parameters. To access advanced parameters, press E when at the Design New Worlds with Advanced Parameters screen. This will bring you to an editable list of various guidelines that the World Gen process will use when creating your new world. Parameters are described below in the order that they appear in the list in the UI, not necessarily the order they appear in the configuration. That does actually describe it better than I could in terms of how to get in there, because I realized at the beginning, I show it in the video where I'm clicking, but I realized I didn't actually audibly say how to get into that menu. But yeah, so design new worlds with advanced parameters, that's when you're creating a new world. I guess you can press E, I guess that's the hotkey as well. There's also a little button you can click, a physical button that's labeled that as such, so you'll find it. So this was actually really useful right here. So they do kind of a breakdown of the different kind of parameters that you can set. And this, I didn't understand this when I was playing with it, so this is helpful. So first one is terrain parameters. So these describe the basic background world, how hot or cold it is, how much rainfall, how high the mountains are. And then the next main class of advanced parameters are weighted meshes. These are a fine way to tune the amount of the 5 basic variables on the map. So the weighted meshes are then used to fine-tune the terrain parameters. This can be used to set the specific distribution of different elevations or rainfall areas, for example. And yeah, I ran into that when I was playing with it too, because so you can like make really high cliffs and say that those should be everywhere, or you could give the potential for really high cliffs or something like that, or rain or temperature or anything. And then depending on how you do the weighted meshes, those places might be rare or they might be modeled all over the surface of the planet. So you will have to get in there and check that out yourself. Rejection parameters, this part is important. This is the third of the 3 big parameter types. And I'm going to read right from the wiki because they have a good description. Dwarf Fortress has a, quote, belt and braces, unquote, approach to world generation. The above control allows you to shape the world. Then the rejection parameters throw it out if it is not right. There are a number of rejection parameters for the number and degree of the 5 basic variables for biome types, etc. If the world does not meet the requirements of any one rejection parameter, the world is rejected and re-randomized. Also see world rejection, which is a whole different article. Y'all are going to have to go to these sources and read. My voice is going to give out eventually. I can't read you the whole thing. Here's something cool for exploitation if you're just trying to be a hacker. Elite hacksaw. Is that still valid slang? It doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure my audience is all my age. What was I even saying? Embark. God help me. Embark points. Embark points are actually quite useful. So this controls the number of points you have for skill and equipment when you embark in Fortress mode. Turning this value up allows games to get started in this world with more skilled dwarves and more equipment, better equipment, so you can turn that up. That's cool. I'm actually going to take advantage of that from now on. I'm going to set my embark points really high to do like a super elite embark and the example they give on the wiki is like if you want to try to survive a super evil savage world or something that you wouldn't be able to do with the normal dwarves, whatever, give yourself better dwarves, why not? So that's the embark point variable that you can play with there. One thing I did want to mention, and the wiki reminded me before I forget, so the reason that I decided to start with this advanced world gen is because it really is, I said it before, it's the gateway into making your own custom mods, and the bridge between what we're talking about here and when you're eventually going to make your own completely custom mod without my help, and we're all going to be really proud because you're going to share it and it's going to be really popular with the community, is init files, INIT, and I'm pretty sure I've said that in previous videos. I've made little mentions about init files. This stands for initialization. Dwarf Fortress gets most of its instructions about how to do things from these, and they are editable. You can edit them with any text editor. And once you get in there and you learn about things like tokens, which is another thing the game uses, basically Dwarf Fortress, for almost all of its customizable options, of which there are many, it's a big part of the game because it's so procedural. These are stored in little text files, often named .init, and it's not my fault if you mess up your own game. Do it at your own risk, of course. But there are a lot of resources online on the forums and everything about how to do it safely. And you'll see when you get in there that it's really just a matter of editing little tokens, and they're just in brackets in text. So, two little brackets around it, and it'll say something not too confusing. It'll say something like goblin something. I honestly haven't been in an init file for a minute, so I don't have any good examples in front of me. But there'll be a bracketed value where it says something equals something. And if you know what that value applies to, and you know what the value range and what the possible options are, and I think in a lot of cases, even when you go in the initialization, there in some cases will be like programmer notes that it'll tell you. It'll say like, hey, by the way, this value you can set from here to here, and this is what it does. It's honestly, in terms of modding, it's quite accessible and like user friendly and everything like that. All right, but my voice is giving out. My time is waning today. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for listening. Feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. That all really helps my channel. This channel is small enough that every little bit of interaction really does help grow it. Try to learn more about this. I feel like I gave too vague a description of how to actually edit like text and init files. And that's honestly just because I don't remember. I haven't done it in a while. But that's step 2. So I'll handle that in part 2 of this series. And, that'll be coming up soon. So thanks everybody for listening. Correct me in the comments. I'll pin you. I'll stick any corrections, highlight them. I want people to have the best possible information and the best possible time playing Dwarf Fortress. So, have fun, back up your saves, and get weird with it.